When I say the word charismatic, the first thing that pops into your head is probably a sharply dressed guy who walks into a room and people notice. He knows exactly what to say during every conversation and never runs out of topics to talk about. He has a silver tongue. He's an expert at conversations. But how can you be that if you're kind of bad at talking to people? You're socially awkward. You don't really know what to talk about in conversation, and you're always constantly panicking about how do I respond to this thing that this person is saying without sounding dumb? What if I told you that one of the easiest ways to be more charismatic is to say nothing at all? Let me explain myself. In case you don't know who I am, my name is Greg, and my goal is to help out young men on their self-improvement journey. Clearly that's something that you're interested in, so feel free to like this video and subscribe to the channel. When I say that you can become more charismatic by not saying anything at all, I'm talking about being a great listener. This is one of the key points that the author of The Charisma Myth talks about, and honestly, this is one of the best books I've read so far about, interacting socially with other people. I'm not sponsored by this book, by the way. I wish I was. Now, while you might think that being an expert public speaker who's great at conversations and always knows what to say is the best way to become more charismatic, that's really only a fraction of what you need to become better at conversations and social situations. Another major part of that is becoming a great listener. And that's because great listeners allow the people around them to feel more comfortable expressing themselves and overall listened to and understood, which at the end of the day, that's what everyone wants. Now I'm going to break down some of the steps that the author provides that'll turn you from just a guy hearing someone talk to a master listener. And essentially the first step that you want to follow is never interrupt someone while they're talking. Now, this might just sound like basic manners and politeness, but think not of all the times that you've interrupted someone, but all the times that someone else has interrupted you. Even if you're talking with just a family member or a friend, it still subconsciously is kind of annoying. You're trying to get your point across and that person just butted right in front of you. If you can avoid being that person who interrupts other people while they're speaking, what they think of you will absolutely skyrocket because you're the one out of a million people who never interrupts. The second major part of this tip is to allow people to interrupt you. Give them the chance to interrupt you and throw whatever piece of information they wanted to say as well. This might seem kind of counterintuitive. Are you letting people step all over you and interrupt you? Not at all. People will subconsciously like you more because they love to hear themselves talk. So if they can associate the time that they were talking with you with feeling smart and like they were right about a certain situation, that will subconsciously help improve their view of you just because you happen to be there. And while you're doing all of this, you're genuinely listening to what the other person is saying. You're not just hearing them and thinking of a response. Hang on every last word that they say so that you can get an understanding of what they're talking about to you. The most common mistake that myself and other people make when they're talking to someone else is you hear what they're talking about, whatever it is that they said, you kind of make a connection to it in your mind to something that you want to say, and then you just wait until they finish talking so that you could say your part. That is the absolutely wrong way to go if you want to become more charismatic. What you should be doing is hang on every last word that that person says, and then after you've had a chance to think about it, then say something. It works a lot better that way because the person that you're speaking to actually feels like you are listening to them rather than just coming up with something to respond to them on the fly. Now, the last and one of the most powerful ways that you can become a better listener is by using pauses to your advantage. What I mean by pauses is by taking short delays in between when someone finishes talking and when you start talking. This is exactly what the author says about this. When someone has spoken, see if you can let your facial expression react first, showing that you're absorbing what they've just said and giving their brilliant statement the consideration that it deserves. Only then, after about 2 seconds, do you answer. The sequence goes like this. 1. They finish their sentence. 2. Your face absorbs. 3. Your face reacts. Oh. And 4. Then, and only then, do you answer. This is kind of a tricky piece of advice to implement, because if you overdo it and take super long pauses or no pause at all, you won't really get any advantage out of it. However, if you are able to implement these 2-second pauses in between when someone finishes talking and when you're considering their statement and then give your response, it is one of the most powerful things that you can implement into how you talk. And to be honest, looking at it from the outside in, all you're really doing is being patient for 2 seconds before blurting out whatever answer you wanted to say. Think about the difference between when you're talking to someone and when, as soon as you stop talking, they just barrel you with all these things that have pretty much nothing to do with what you said and just what they had on their mind, versus you finish talking, the other person pauses to really think about what you just said, just for 2 seconds, and then gives a perfect response as to what you just said. You're gonna feel a lot more listened to and understood by that second situation. Now, if you can be the person that provides that for other people, boom. You just became more charismatic without having any new topics to talk about. All you're really doing is absorbing what that person was talking about, usually something about themselves, because people do like to talk about themselves. And all you're doing, taking a quick pause and then saying, yeah, wow, I actually find that really interesting. And then finish out your response. You can and will become infinitely more charismatic by not interrupting people, letting other people interrupt you, and pausing before you talk. 3 things that are honestly that simple will change the way people view you in a positive way. I hope this video helped out anyone who genuinely feels a lot of social awkwardness when it comes to talking to other people, because if you use these to your advantage, you don't need to have 12 topics to talk about and crazy life experiences to share with other people. Just let them talk about themselves. That's all I've got for today. See you guys.